related to a snake. Okay. And I'll leave that to Leo to talk about. Oh, do you want?
Yeah, you're right. Do we have like a HDMI to USB-C? We have like the USB-C adapter for HDMI. Yeah.
In worst case, you can also use my laptop.
Yeah, it was. Well,
Well, okay, okay.
where's my phone?
Oh, my phone over there.
Share the screen. Okay. All right. So we're going to start with workshop 1. What we're going to be covering in this workshop is mainly just how to use JavaScript on your websites and make them reactive with some logic. So yeah, we're gonna make something with JavaScript today for this workshop. More specifically, we're gonna be making the snake game that some of you might be familiar with. Just in case you are not, here's a demo of that in action. So it's you guys maybe seen this before. It's just like there's this green snake going around this board, and the goal is to go and get these red cubes because they're food. And every time you go over one of these, your snake gets bigger. And the goal is just to get the snake as big as it can possibly get. You lose by either crashing onto the side of the black border or by crashing onto yourself like this. And then it says game over. So we're going to be making this today. So yeah, let's all begin by going to our Catbook React folders. So let's just make sure that everybody is there. So open up your terminal and then CD into wherever you have your Catbook React folder saved. And I'll give you guys a bit of time to do that. So once you guys are there, just do git reset dash hard to get rid of any progress that you might have had in your capbook folder from yesterday. And then let's go ahead and check out workshop 1 starter. And this is going to be the first step for today. We're just going to start with the basics for this project. Cool. So once we have checked out the correct branch, we can go ahead and open up VS Code. Let's see. So if you're on the right branch, workshop 1 starter, you should only have 3 files inside of Capit React. You either have you have game JavaScript, index.html, and style.css. Quick run through what these files are doing. Style.css is just kind of like all the styling for this game. As you can see here, we got the snake in green, the food in red. We have the game board in black, and as you can see, when I showed the demo, everything that was not inside of the game was just great. Index.html is just kind of like your structure for the site. Here in the body, you can see the game board. Up here in the head, you can see this JavaScript that we're going to be using for the logic. And then here under game.javascript is we're going to be having the main game logic. So if we take a look at this, the main idea of this file is we have this main function up here. And what it's going to be doing is going to be updating the game and then redrawing it every time. So an update, we're going to have like any logic that we want to update in every frame of the game, and draw is just going to draw whatever the result is. And then here's that set interval function from a couple of slides ago in the JavaScript lecture. If you remember, that should be calling this main function over and over and over again until we say stop, but we won't say stop because we want the game to keep on going for now. So yeah, let's just give a quick demo of what this would look like. Here inside of the update function, if we do console.log updating and save that, we should expect this update function to be called over and over and over again because of this set interval function that we have here. So if we go over here to reload and we open up our console, here you can see that we're printing out updating a bunch of times, and that's how fast our game is going currently. It's going a little too fast to be playable at the moment. You know, if the snake was actually moving at this pace, we would be going off the border very, very quickly. So we want to slow that down. And in order to do that, we can pass an additional argument into set interval, where instead of updating it as fast as or like calling it continuously without any delay, we can add a little bit of delay here. So if we type in 1,000, this will now be calling main every second. Over here, this is in milliseconds. So just keep that in mind. So now if we go over here back to our page, updating, you can see is a lot slower. It's now going like once a second. And that might be a little too slow for this game, so we can speed that up. So if we just divide this by 5, now we'll be calling main 5 times a second. If we go over here, reload, that's a little bit more of an acceptable pace. It's a pretty good pace to where the game could be, you know, moving faster than it was before, but not too fast to where it's unplayable. So for now, we're going to keep that speed. And then just a little bit of a good coding practice. We should create a constant up here for that snake speed. So something like this. snake speed equals 5. And then let's replace this 5 down here with snake speed. That way, it's just something that you can easily change at the very top of the file. In case you were to reference snake speed a bunch of times in your code, instead of having to go in and change it like every single time you use number 5, you just have to change it one time up here. And let's just set a quick comment to remind us what this does. Just the number of times we update per second. So that should be it for the starter code. This is the underlying game logic. We just kind of wanted to set the frame rate for our game and make sure that we're updating and redrawing it every time. So, yeah. Okay, so now that we're here, I'll just go back into our terminals and get reset hard. Then check out step 1 on the workshop. So check out workshop 1, step 1. And even if you're all caught up with the lecture, you guys should be resetting and checking out the newest step. Because throughout this workshop, we're going to have a little bit of code that's given to you guys from us in every step. And even if you're caught up all the way, you will want to be checking out each step just to get those additional helper functions that we have made for you guys. So here we are in step 1. Step 1 is a little different from what we had in the starter code. Now you see that we got this new snake.javascript file. And in here, we're just going to have all the logic for the snake in our game. So if we go over here back to where we have game.javascript, we have this snake speed variable or snake speed constant. We can go ahead and take that out and move it over to snake.javascript just to keep things more consistent, since this is going to be where we store all of our variables for the snake and all of our logic for the snake. So now that we have this new snake file, we can go ahead and kind of define what our snake will, like where it is on the board, how big it is, where it's going, and we can go ahead and kind of like animate it here. So to start doing all of that, we should define the snake body. So let's make a constant, call it snake body. And snake body, we're just going to make an array of coordinate points on our grid. So to define a point in our grid, we are going to be using this object where we have the x coordinate and then a y coordinate. And then this is kind of what we're going to be using throughout the game to represent coordinate points on an array. This is just the data structure we chose to go with, but you know there are other ways you could do it. This is just kind of the easiest to read, I would say. So our board, I believe, is 22 by 22. So let's just define the center of that, or just an initial block for the snake. And then let's start by making the snake 3 blocks long. So then we're going to we can keep it in the center and then just make the snake go further down. And then one more time. Oh, sorry, first one. There we go. Okay. So now this object is showing that our snake will be in the center of the board and going from y coordinate 11 to 9, and those are all all these coordinates are just squares that the snake's body is taking place in. So now that we have defined the snake's body and its location, we can go ahead and make a function to update the snake, because every frame we will be wanting to animate him and change his direction and stuff like that later on. So just to move the snake, what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to delete the last block. We gotta delete its tail, and we gotta add a new block at the very front for the new head. All the ones in the middle don't really change. They'll all get deleted eventually when they become the tail. So here, let's just go ahead and remove the tail segment. And that's gonna be pretty easy. You remember from the JavaScript lecture, there's a pop function. And what that does is it just removes the last element of any array. And because snake body is just an array of a bunch of coordinate points, we can just do snake body dot pop. And yeah, as you can see, there's a help dialog for this function. It just removes the last element from an array. So now this will just get rid of the tail of the snake. And the other thing we want to do is add a new head segment to the front of the snake. And we can define this new head as another coordinate point. So here we can use this object destructuring technique that we learned in the JavaScript lecture. So we can index into snake body, get the head of the snake's body, which is the first element, and then destructure that. So what that will be doing is that new head will become this essentially. So we're indexing into snake body here, getting the first element and then destructuring it. So then we can take the information from that and putting it into our new variable here. So now we have the new head. We might just want to go ahead and update its X and Y values. And so for now, we're just gonna have the snake going down our screen just to get some animation going, and then we'll change his direction and stuff. But if we just want the snake to be going down our screen, we don't have to change its X value. We just have to change its Y value. So the new head will just be Y plus or equal to 1, and then the X is unchanged. And now that we have this new head object or this new head variable, we just want to put it into the beginning of our snake body array. So a similar method to pop that does the opposite, instead of removing the last element, actually puts an element in the first position, is called unshift. So we're going to do we're gonna do snake body dot unshift and then new head. So that should put the new head variable that we just made into the very front of the snake body. Yeah. And just a quick note about the Y coordinates here. If you notice, actually, let's do this other thing first. Let's go to the game.javascript file, and in our snake file, we defined update snake, and we just want to make sure we're calling update snake inside of our main loop over here. So instead of printing out updating every time it updates, we actually want to do something useful, and we can call update snake just like that. Cool. And now that we have that, we should be able to go over here to our game, reload, and then you see that our snake is traveling vertically like we intended. So now we can talk about the comment about the Y coordinates on this. If you notice, our snake is moving down. And in update snake, we are increasing the y value. So unlike a linear plot that you would see in like a graphing software, y does not, when y increases, the position actually goes down here. That's common in a lot of graphics, and it's the same here for our game. So what that means is kind of like the graph's y index is almost inverted if we're thinking about it in math terms. So up here, the very top left corner would be our origin, and then if we were to go down or increase the y value, it would go down one and then more and more. The x coordinate is not unchanged, so that would just be what you expect it to be. As x goes positive, it goes to the right, but as y goes positive, it goes down. So just something to keep in mind when you are designing any sorts of things like these. Okay, so if you have your snake going down like this, you should be done with step one, and we can go ahead and reset hard. And then check out workshop 1, step 2. Yeah, so if you are not caught up, this is a good time for you to maybe get back on track. So, just reset hard, go over there, check out step 2, and we'll begin the next part of this. Okay, so main difference here from step 1 is that step 2, we got a new file, input.javascript. And if you noticed, our snake was just traveling down, and that's all it was doing. But we want to be able to control the snake with our keyboard. So that's what we're going to be doing inside of the input.javascript file. So let's see. All right. So for this, we're going to want to have a variable storing the input direction of whatever the user put into their keyboard. So whether it's up, down, left, right, and we can just go ahead and define that let input direction, and then we can initialize it to anything, but let's just initialize it to the snake going down. And then we'll be changing this depending on whatever the user types in or clicks on their keyboard. So for this, we're going to be using a listener. And so to do that, we're going to want to do window.add event listener. Window refers to your entire page. So here we're adding an event listener to the entire page so that whenever the user clicks either of the arrows, we'll be able to detect that. And specifically, we're going to be listening to the event of key down. So here, now our website is just checking for whether the user presses a key at all. The second argument to add event listener is a callback function. So this is a good time to maybe get some practice with what a callback function or how it could be used. So here we're gonna, whenever we get an event, the event gets triggered, it will be passed into this. It'll be passed into this callback function. So that's one of the arguments that we want. And we don't really need anything else. Our event will tell us what key the user is pressing. So as long as we have that, we're able to, get all the information we need for this. So just to recap what's going on here, we're listening for the key down event. Whenever that gets detected, then this callback function is going to get ran, and we want to make sure to have the event as an argument into our function. So we can just start with doing some logic for this. So if the event.key is equals to arrow down, arrow up. then we can do some logic here. And yeah, just indexing into event.key will be able to tell us what key was being pressed by the user. So let's say that the user was hitting the arrow up key. We would then want to change the input direction to be unaffected in the X and then go up in Y. Yeah, so as you remember, the Y is inverted, so -1 would imply that the snake's going up. And then we can just kind of copy this for every other key and make sure it's an else if statement here. So then arrow down would just be a positive Y. And then for the X direction, that would be arrow left. And then Y isn't affected here, but X goes -1. And same for arrow right. Y isn't affected, and then X goes positive. So here we have all the logic that we need to, depending on whatever key the presses. Yeah, the arrows up and down will change the vertical direction of our snake, and left and right will change its horizontal direction. So then we just want to be able to get this input direction from other parts in our code, probably inside of our update function inside of snake. So in order to do that, we should define a getter function. So let's just do const.get input direction. This doesn't need any arguments into it. We're just gonna, all that this function is supposed to do is just return the input direction. So now if we call get input direction from other parts in our code, it'll just give us whatever input direction the user has clicked on. And this is just a good coding practice to have these getter functions. It kind of keeps each file independent. That way you don't have to like dig into a certain file from a different one and kind of extract a variable from it. This way, just kind of like call a function and it's the whole file is kind of closed to the other file. They don't really do much interaction there. It's just a safe coding practice, so we'll be doing that. And okay, so now that we have this, we can, we can just add this logic into our update snake function. So here we are defining the new head. Before we were just making it go down, so the X was unaffected and the Y was increasing. But now we can actually, kind of figure out what the user wants to do. So we can make a constant here, snake direction. And then let's use our helper function, the get input direction from our other file. So now we can get the snake direction here in this file. And let's go ahead and change the X. So snake direction dot X, and then whatever the Y direction is, dot Y. So now this should respond to whatever the user has inputted into their keyword. And save that and go over to your website. You can now go ahead and press the keys and the snake will move accordingly. The only thing is that right now the snake is able to do these like 180-degree turns where if it was going left, it's going right now. And this is not the intended behavior of the game because you don't want to be running into yourself. That was one of the ways that you could lose the game. So right now, if you were to go right and then go left, that would imply that you're kind of crashing into yourself. Same with going up and then going down. So we don't want to be able to do these 180-degree turns. We want to be able to only do 90-degree turns. That's how the game's supposed to operate. So we can change that easily by just kind of like altering some of our logic inside of our input file here. And so we could just add another condition to all of our if statements here. So for example, in the arrow up condition, we don't want to be able to go down if sorry, we don't want to be able to, like if the user presses arrow up, we don't want it to do anything if the snake is already moving vertically. So we can just add a quick check for that. Oh, sorry, but to check what direction the snake is going in, we'll want to keep track of what the last input direction was. So we can just define that up here and then initialize it to the same thing since we'll be changing it. Cool. And then down here, wherever we call get input direction, we will want to be updating our last input direction. So now the last input direction will be the last input direction that the user typed. And yeah, so here, now that we have the last input direction, we can do some logic with it. If the snake is already going vertical, we don't want to be able to do anything on arrow up. So let's just check that it's not doing that. So yeah, so last input direction. So what this is saying is if our last input direction's X value is not 0, which means that it was moving horizontally, then we can go ahead and move up, because that's fine, that's 90-degree turn. And this logic will apply as well for going down. Yeah, so if our snake is moving horizontally, we can go up, we can go down, that's completely fine. We can do those 90-degree turns if it's going, you know, we can go up or down here. And then we'll want to do the same thing for left and right, but instead of checking if our snake is going horizontally, we'll want to check if it's going vertically. So we'll do something like this. And then same for arrow right down here. So now this ensures that we can only do 90-degree turns with our snake. And if we go and check that over here, I'm no longer able to do those 180-degree turns. I can no longer go right if I was already going left and vice versa. Yeah, so if we have a snake that is not able to do 180-degree turns and it's moving according to your keys, we are done with step 2. So we can go ahead and get reset hard. And then get checkout workshop 1, step 3. So yeah, that should be it for step 2. And in step 3, we'll be doing more with the snake's food and logic for what happens when it gets eaten and stuff like that.
So I'll be working my best in the later part, but for now we'll break for lunch. If everyone can listen to Jackie over here on our left. Jackie will provide more instructions on lunch.